This week's episode of Surgeon Interrupted is brought to you by the Hippocratic Collective. Check out all our shows and content at hippocratic-collective.com. Welcome back to this week's episode of Surgeon Interrupted. I'm your host, Frances Mei Hardin, and today I'm joined by Natasha Singareddy, a first-year medical student at University of Houston College of Medicine. She studied at Claremont McKenna College, and before entering medicine, she's worked across multiple different functional teams at digital health startups. And now she's navigating the balancing act of medical school, maintaining love and a personal identity outside of medicine, and thinking deeply about medicine as both an art and an unfinished product. Natasha, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Frances May. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I was literally thinking through your intro earlier, and I was telling Colin I was like, yep, Natasha's coming on today. This is big. Just so everyone is caught up, Natasha is one of our interns at the HC. She's been such a great contribution to the team, which we'll talk about a little bit. But here's the takeaway. I was like, if I had to introduce Natasha, I'd be like, okay, you have some real life experience prior to medical school. Yeah, you're a new M1 now, but you have all this life experience and professional expertise, and subsequently, you just have a much better head on your shoulders than I did back at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always knew that I loved medicine and healthcare, but the thing about medicine and healthcare is it's huge. That's an umbrella term for a bunch of different ways that you can get into understanding what is healthcare and how can I contribute to improving the system or improving patient care. And so I wanted to try on a lot of different hats to see what fit me best and in what way do I think I could contribute the most to patient lives. And so that's kind of why I had some time in digital health startups, which was amazing to see the ways that technology can supplement care, and also kind of put my hand into healthcare admin and eventually moved into clinical patient facing work, which is sort of like the bread and butter that I fell in love with. And that's why I decided I think I'm going to do this instead of digital health startups.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so excited to see and hear where your career goes. It's interesting. You almost flipped it on its head because a lot of people do clinical, but then find, okay, I have an appetite. I want to see what else is out there. And I love that you were just one of these people who had the foresight, also the courage. I think it's very brave for a young person to be even willing to accept that degree of change, constant change in your life. That's part of the acceptance of I'm going to try out multiple things. So that means by definition, there will be a changing landscape. And also there's a lot of unknown that comes with that.
Yeah, I think I had to get really comfortable with being uncertain and learning to just trust my gut. Even if there wasn't a clear path, even if the path was really hard, even if it seemed like the sacrifices were going to be a lot greater in one path compared to another, at the end of the day, it was what is the most fulfilling? Because you can be fulfilled by a lot of different things, but what is something that currently feels like it's filling my cup without, at this point, I'm going to put a little caveat, at this point, draining my cup too
Mm-hmm.
much. And I think for me, I chose to become a physician or enter this pathway into becoming a physician because I realized that no matter what the technology and structural changes that we make to the system, all of that stuff, the real bedrock
Mm-hmm.
of healthcare and medicine is that physician patient relationship and that trust and the honor and responsibility that's given to you when a patient trusts you in their most vulnerable, their most scary, their most private moments. I wanted to be the person that was on the receiving end of that. I wanted to really hold that trust and honor it. And that's why I was like,
Yeah,
I think this is right for me.
that's beautiful. Yeah, it is a process of not just the receiving end, but also earning it. like the trust
Mhm.
that we earn from our patients, and we get to be really one of the two beneficiaries of that fiduciary relationship. Like, I think that's very beautifully said, and I love that. But I also there are many things about even what you just shared that I love so much, and I think that they're characteristic of maybe, this direction of the Gen Z doctor. And here's what I'll call out for that. This sense that, I mean, you just pointed out a very reasonable, logical concept, which is that there are many things in life that can fill our cups in different ways, fill different cups that we have. And I have always felt that really brilliant young people, they have multiple options available to them. And so, but there's nothing wrong with that. And what's interesting, I'll share with you, you weren't around in the rat race when I came up in it, but it was very much like, this should be it. Like, you become a surgeon because you cannot see yourself becoming anything else in life. And that always tripped me up a little bit, right? Because when I was 20 years old and getting that advice, I was like, that's crazy. Like, I do want to do a bunch of other stuff. Like, I kind of want to be a pop star. I think the statistical likelihood of me finding my success in pop stardom, it was always pretty low, and that's fine. But I mean, I really think I always had a laundry list of like other things. And
Mhm.
coming up in an era where people tried to squash it down and tamp out all of those other things was a disservice to us who were coming up in it.
Absolutely. I think that was the thing that deterred me the most in college was hearing from physicians I was shadowing or physicians I reached out to get advice and some insight who would repeat that kind of sentiment that was you should only be a physician. You should only go into medicine in this capacity if you can't see yourself doing anything else, which is such a box to put people
Yeah.
into. And also, I think kind of creates a barrier that doesn't need to be there in which people are like, "Oh, I don't fit that mold. I
Mhm.
can do all these things. I'm also an innovator. I am also a creator. I'm a pop star on the side, like I can be all these things. You can be a physician plus. You can be a physician hyphen XYZ." And I think part of the reason why I fell in love with the Hippocratic Collective, the HC, when I learned about it, was that you guys were really spotlighting, hey, these people, these like minded individuals who don't just want to be a physician, we want to be a physician and all of these other things. You guys created a community and it created a space for people to feel at home and feel safe and be able to gather and talk about this. And so it's so great that you guys exist now because God, I would have loved you if I was in college. Like I would have loved to have, been a part of it and, reaped all the things that you guys do. But I get to do it now from the inside. So that's always fun.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, it's super sweet. It means a lot for you to say that because, like, the HC, yeah, it's built, it exists for people like you and me. It's
Mhm.
definitely for people like the people that we were when we were 20 years old, 1,000,000%. It's like, I love the Virgil Abloh quote, which is everything I do is for the 17-year-old version of myself. So I really love that. One thing that I want to call back to that you brought up earlier is how much you trust your gut
Mhm.
and make decisions based on that. And here's why I'm interested in that. I mean, and yes, fine. For the audience, for everyone, I'm a little bit older than Natasha. Don't worry
Not
about
much
it.
older.
Yeah,
Not that
just
much
yeah,
older.
exactly. Not much older, just a smidge. And it's
Mhm.
like, don't look too deeply into that. I'm a little older than her, and I still no, I don't have that down pat. I still struggle with it. I think that, and definitely my whole 20s were mired in extreme mistrust of my gut. And so I agree. You have such a good head on your shoulders. And here's my question for you is how do you know, how can any of us know, like, what's the gut versus my reptilian brain tells me all sorts of stuff. Like, my reptilian brain most days is like, you're in danger. It's like
Mhm.
whether or not I've left the house or things like that. I think that there's an ability, a super ability that some people have to really listen to their gut more than others.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like an ability more in so that I am okay if my gut is wrong. So I can accept, I am perfectly fine if my gut makes the wrong decision because it made the decision that it felt was right at the time, and I trust in that. And I think that has made all the difference. Like, I look to my gut as it's an extension of me, so it is also imperfect. It is not gonna be right 100% of the time, but I can trust in my gut trying to make the best decision for me 100% of the time. And whether that is right or wrong is what makes us human. And so inevitably there will be those moments where I trust my gut and the outcome is not what I wanted. And I wish I hadn't trusted my gut. But I know that trusting my gut is the one safeguard no one can take away from you. It is the one safeguard that is impenetrable to other forces if you accept that your gut is going to be imperfect, just like another version of you, just like another close person in your life.
Okay, I'm shaken up. I had like full body goosebumps. I think that that's incredible, and I've never heard it described that way. I think that you may have just like broken something loose in a good way. Like I really will need to like meditate on that, because when you describe it that way, I will tell you that makes sense to me, because I'm like, no, I expect my gut to be perfect. I also
Mhm.
expect me to be perfect, quite frankly. Obviously, neither one of those things is happening. And that also explains a lot of like the beating oneself up process that occurs. And, yeah, just like the disappointment. Because when you expect or hope that you're going to be machine learning levels of inhuman accuracy,
Yeah.
when it doesn't occur that way, then it is like such a disappointment. And I think that I lose like a fair bit of bandwidth in that regard.
And I think I've carried that same sentiment into med school where I'm like, I'm not going to be the best student in the room. I'm not going to be the smartest student in the room, but I can be the student that is able to sustain myself the most, carry myself through all of those, high highs and low lows that you experience in med school. And it creates almost this safe baseline that no matter how excited or disappointed I am, I can always kind of return to center. And it keeps me grounded knowing that like my gut, right or wrong as it may be, is me trusting myself. And you need to show yourself that you trust yourself. It's literally almost like evidence. Like you need evidence that you can
Mhm.
trust yourself
Mhm.
so in the future when you're making those harder decisions, you know that you've done it in the past. And right or wrong, you made it out the other side, but it was that 100% like, I'm just going to trust my gut and go for it. That in and of itself is the greatest trust that you can have.
Amazing. Incredible. Well, for anyone out there who's been handily shown up by a much younger person and then had to be like, what the heck? They can relate to me right now, because that's incredible. I think it's just very wise, and I try to live on the middle path, and it's just taking me a long time to unlearn some things, and also feel like you said, we have to collect especially those of us who are like really evidence-based. Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
soothing to me if I can collect evidence and I can earn trust and build it over the years. But just like realistically, and especially I know where I came from in my 20s. I mean,
Yep.
if I had a sense that ENT was not it for me like 10 years ago, I'm not I'm not convinced that I really do trust myself. I've made all sorts of decisions that are not in my best interest. And so it is a fight, but a worthwhile fight to like earn it back. So, okay, perfect. I assume you're going to drop more truth bombs on me before even this is through. I am so excited to talk about. I really love like the whole dating and love outside of medicine concept. Like, and definitely
Mhm.
medicine, a lot of people within medicine. I mean, people have strong opinions about this. Like, I know people who will go to the mat on
Yes.
physician relationships. I know people who will go on the mat down to the mat for a physician and non-physician relationship. But
Yeah.
this concept of even like an expected pedigree, I would really love to explore with you and just kind of hear about your experience and, what we think about this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So Yeah, I feel like there are, these two opposing parties. One who's like the best relationship you can have as a physician in terms of like a romantic relationship is with another physician. Or there are those people who are like, you should date someone who's not in medicine and is completely outside of it because it'll give your brain a break. And I see both points. I'm kind of not, and well, I'm in the second bucket a little bit in that my partner he is not a physician, but there's like, again, like a little caveat when they're like, oh, you should date someone who's not a physician. What they're really saying is you should date someone who has a parallel pedigree to being a physician if you're not going
Mhm.
to date a physician, someone who's a lawyer or high up in
Right.
finance or tech and all of these things. When I found that dating someone who doesn't have that same kind of parallel pedigree, my boyfriend works in landscaping and construction, but dating him has shown me in the reactions of other people how much like we assume that because of our certain pedigree, we should only be with people of equal higher ed or equal career status. And how that I think completely cuts us off at the legs to being open to people, to understanding the different kind of intelligences that are out
Mhm.
there, the different
Mhm.
expertises that are out there that we do not even touch as physicians. He has skill sets that I could not even begin to like verbalize because I
Mhm.
don't even understand what they are. But when he brings those to the table, it grounds me. It brings me back down to earth because he to me is like my route to reality, my route to the whole world that's happening outside of not even just this little med bubble, but also like a higher ed, higher pedigree bubble. The
Mhm.
people that we work with, and I don't mean coworkers, but I mean patients. And I say work with
Mhm.
them because we work with patients. We serve them and
Mhm.
we also work with them. Um, a lot of them are not of the same parallel pedigree or, exact pedigree that we are. And I think him in my life and connecting to his personal and social sphere has totally broadened my perspective and has also really humbled me and has shown me like bring yourself back down to earth from like your ivory tower,
Mhm.
and realize that you also need to not just like empathize and understand the people that you serve, but you also need to be able to like rapport with them, par with them, become friends with them, like have that intimate connection. And so having a romantic connection with my partner has really helped me kind of get rid of a lot of my biases, and has given me a lot of skills to be able to connect with patients. It's been such an amazing relationship in showing me that like he has a life that is a different rhythm that is not my rhythm. But we need to be able to find a way to make a harmony with people who have these different life rhythms in order to show up as our best versions of ourselves in any kind of environment.
I love this so much. I completely agree with you. And so again, I was right. You were going to drop more truth bombs on us. Um, my husband is not in medicine, and interestingly, I guess I think it would be fair to say that he's like maybe I dated two kinds of guys before. I'll actually broaden it. I'd say two different buckets of the type of guy that I dated before Colin. And this also explains why I didn't learn a lot of the stuff that I learned about the world, about how people interact, about interpersonal relationships, organizational dynamics. I didn't learn them until Colin from Colin. In the old days, I mostly dated nerds, which like that's very nice. I'm still pro dating nerds. I happen to like not marry one. I kind of married like the homecoming king or whatever you call it.
The
Like
golden boy.
yeah, I mean I feel like at one point he was like, "Oh, this is like she's all that." And I was like, "What?" And so, I mean, I did like marry that guy, but I dated a lot of nerds. And then also a second bucket, I did date a lot of sociopaths. And that is not a good match for me. That's a little bit like we can't date ourselves. And so that is like a very nihilistic, like problematic type of pairing. But what's so interesting for Colin is that he's described, because he's a very like puts people at ease, extraordinarily high, like interpersonal intelligence,
Hmm.
abstract concept and ideation intelligence, and also, like I said, just very type B. And when he has dated himself in the past, he's like, nothing ever happened. It would just be like, what do you want for dinner? Like, I'm not sure. What do you want for dinner? Just like, and then 2 weeks go by. So I do love what you're describing in terms of like the complementary, like somebody has to advance the plot and it's not going to
Yeah.
be the type B husband.
Mm-mm. And I want to pick up exactly on what you said, in that he puts you at ease. The right relationship will regulate you and will regulate your nervous system, not deregulate you. And I have experienced that in relationships with people who were very similar to me. And it's because it's like you're dating a mirror of yourself, and you need to it should be like two puzzle pieces, which means that sort of like what might be I think, is a deficit, he is able to kind of compensate for and bring up. So I always describe him as kind of my, like, he's my sunrise. Like, he elevates me, and I'm his sunset because I bring him down to earth because he's the dreamer, he's the
True.
abstract, he's the optimist. I now won't call myself a pessimist, but I am a realist, and I like to, bring us down to earth, but we can't have two realists in a
Yeah.
relationship, and we
No.
can't have two optimists in a relationship. And so it should be like two puzzle pieces, not exactly the same, but they should fit, they should work. And when you're together, it should balance out and be one level like playing field.
Yes. 1,000,000% agree, but then I would even build on that to argue that like it's not two static puzzle pieces because like we are
Mhm.
now at our 9-year mark. So thank God I am not my original puzzle piece and he is not his. I would just say I am better because this is the person that I've lived with for 9 years. Like
Yeah.
actually changed me at the fundamental level. Absolutely, like, I'm more regulated, but really, like, introduce new ideas, and this is how I was able to now be a person where, yes, I'm unlearning a lot of what I learned in my first few decades, but I feel like I got the smorgasbord. I got introduced to
Mm.
a lot of new ideas and values, and I
Yeah.
feel like I sat down and I got to pick the ones that I wanna carry forward with me. That was such a gift,
Yeah.
and that's fine, I can say I'm late to the party all day, but, like, some people never get to do this. And so now I'm kind of like moving forward with more agency, clearer sense of values and things like that.
Mhm.
And that's so valuable. I do want to share with everyone, if you guys haven't heard of the types of intelligences that Natasha's talking about, there's Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, and I'll just share the 9 distinct that they delineate there. Linguistic, logical, mathematical, musical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalistic, and existential. And so it's just very important. I think, Natasha, this is going to be my hot take. And
Okay.
then
I'm all
please,
ears.
yeah, this is a hot take. It really is, but it grinds my gears a bit when I hear about, because I can imagine, right? Like I was in medicine for a long time,
Mhm.
a long enough time to imagine how some people would respond to or treat your partner given his background and what you're
Mhm.
describing, a lack of a parallel pedigree, right? Something, it sounds so stupid when we talk about it like this. It's like, who even cares a little bit? But I know people in medicine, so there are some people out there who are going to care and maybe going to comment on it. I think that there's this interesting, like some of the traditional and old holdover for the people who push for like physician-physician relationships. And they're like, somebody who isn't in medicine, isn't in surgery, right? If you're a surgeon, they're not a surgeon. they'll never understand. That's what they say. Like, that's the implication. It's sometimes
Mhm.
outright said, or it's the implication like they'll just truly never get your life, right? Like, you'll be a surgeon. You'll be this like genius up in your ivory tower, just literally like better than everyone else in town. How, your partner, like, yeah, they might love you, but they won't get the demands of your work or get the work or you. And I just love that I have some evidence, in fact, to like debunk that because not only did Colin, not a surgeon at all, see so clearly, like see me really clearly, see the work, the job, what was happening at the job so clearly, but I mean, like, he quite literally created Rethinking Residency and in large part the Hippocratic Collective. Like, sorry to y'all that part of the conception of this, like, that didn't even have to come from a doctor. It had to come from someone who has been like listening really closely and paying attention to their partner who was a surgeon. And that's like what some of the most beautiful, like, new resources in medicine were born out of. Like, it wasn't going to just purely come from a doctor in a vacuum, nor two doctors in a vacuum.
Yeah. And I want to highlight there specifically a lot of this traditional old thinking that favors, physician relationships, again, only see a physician as one dimensional. They are just a physician. They're not there's not this whole other person behind the white coat. They're saying that this person won't know you. I argue that they'll know me infinitely better because they'll know the person behind the
Mm,
white coat. They will know who I am as an individual, and they might also know my identity as my stub identity as a physician, but that's my core identity.
hmm,
My core identity is Natasha. I am a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm all of these other things. I'm a creative. X, Y, and Z. That's who my partner knows me as. And he also knows Natasha, physician to be, as
mhm,
well. And because he understands that I am a nexus of all of these things, he can understand me in any environment I am in because fundamentally who I am is not changing. I might be putting on a white coat or a leather jacket if I'm going dancing or something like that. But it doesn't matter the environment that I am in. I am the same person. And he is able to see me behind all of these different coats or these different hats that I might wear. And that's what the right relationship will do for you. It'll remind you, again, also who you are, because sometimes you get lost when you wear that white
mhm.
coat, when you wear a different hat. Sometimes you put on that mask and you forget who you really are. You need a partner who's going to look past all of that and, again, bring you back down to earth, remind you who you are, not who you are as a physician.
Yeah. Wow. You really just get it. I feel like I should have just had you teach me like a million years ago. Should
No.
we put you in a time machine and we'd be like, you got to warn young Frances May? Because I can echo everything that you're saying is spot on for me because, yes, I
Mhm.
forgot who I was. Although, honestly, to be frank, I don't think I did some of like the regular developmental years. So I just probably, I think that
You
maybe
went straight for it, didn't you?
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
straight through, I did that gap year in ENT, which
right.
kind of ends up being straight through. Plus I
It's
was
yeah.
20. I think that Natasha, I feel like you'll appreciate this. What I was calling it, like genuinely the adult that I was when I got spit out
Mhm.
as an ENT attending, 30 years old, flat. I called it undercooked. I think that's probably the best way to do it. It wasn't that like, oh, I found myself. I had a very clear identity at 18. Then I
Mhm.
lost it behind the mask. I forgot who I was. Like, I'll tell you, I just never did some of those regular developmental like
Yeah.
milestones. And so it was beautiful regardless at the end of the day. The point being that like, yes, I was a physician. Like when Colin and I met, so I was an M4. So, I was a medical student and medical student was my identity. Medical student who is applying in ENT was my identity. It was very one dimensional. And being with a person who saw me, not only did it open up all these new doors, but like he really helped me see the doors and then get to pick who I want to be. And I really do think, I've mentioned, but like with neurodivergence and stuff like that meant a lot. And I don't know that I would have gotten there on my own.
The right partner will just give you the space and the freedom to figure out who you want to be. They're never going to expect you to be just one thing or fit into just like one little box. If you, they'll, first of all, they'll clear the fog a little bit. They'll give you some clarity as to, wait, maybe I want to try out some other things. And then they'll also give you the space and the support to be able to do that. And that's love outside the mold.
Wow. We love it. I'm here for it. I mean the parallel pedigree stuff. I hope that in the near future that's like just not even a thing. Like I would love for it to be so not a thing that people just don't even comment on it. And if somebody does comment on it, they're an outlier and kind of a weirdo.
A weirdo. Yeah, I mean, people are shocked, consistently really shocked when I talk about what my partner does. And to me, that says a lot more about you than it does me. But it also says a lot about the system that we've built up where we expect and like to come together. And
Mhm.
just think that that is such tunnel vision thinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this naturally, I think, segues very nicely into the next topic. I wanted to get your thoughts on this before we have you back. Again, now I'm like, Natasha,
Part
you
two.
should just have your own. Yeah, like you kind of need your own thing where you like set people straight. And I really admire the last thing I wanted to mention actually just about dating and love and you sharing like your dating life.
Mhm.
I agree with you. What I really admire and respect about you and anyone who can do something like this is that you're aware of how others, the system, might view something like your relationship. Not that it's saying their business or that it's legitimate for them to comment on, but fine. They have feelings about it. And you know what some of those feelings or maybe like pushback would be, and yet you do not shirk from it at all. You're certainly not hiding your relationship. And I just
Mhm.
love when we see, someone really powerfully being like, no, I feel good about this. This is beautiful. This is the love of my life. Like, I'm good. And if somebody takes issue with that, that's an issue with the system.
Yep. And
But if,
again, it comes back to just I'm so sorry, Francis May. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it really comes back to trusting your gut. And when you trust your gut, you got to be 100% in trusting it. And you have to be okay with people telling you that maybe your gut is wrong. Because if you trust your gut and you know what you feel, you have to stand your ground. Because again, it's almost like a response signal to your gut being like, when you tell me that this is right, that this feels right, I will back that. I will back that approach and I will back that assumption with my whole chest because that's again teaching your gut to be like I want to be 100% sure about what choices I make going forward and I can trust me trusting myself. I can trust that I will abide by that and stick to it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
mhm.
And I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, but like this concept that we would each have our own back. I love that because it's like the opposite of self abandonment. And I like because I'm sensing, I feel like you didn't mention it just now, but even if the gut is wrong, having its back in that scenario as well, in that
In that
pathway.
moment. Yep.
So, okay, well, beautiful. The last area where I really want to get your thoughts today is just
Mhm.
about setting up guardrails as a medical student to not get totally consumed by the med school bubble, quote unquote.
Yeah. I it's hard. I'm in the throes of it right now and it's hard. It's hard because everything you do seems to be feeding into some aspect of medicine. And I think that's why it's so people will tell you keep your hobbies that you had before medicine. Try and do them while you're, in medical school or in residency. And I'm like, with what time? I'm literally a first year and I barely have time as it is.
Yeah.
And so The way that I have tried to set up these guardrails is to protect my curiosity and protect my peace as much as I can. And the ways that I've done that is that, like, I reserve little pockets of curiosity, what I call, like, curious moments, for kind of pursuing or exploring random things. So, I, like, randomly would read an article about claymation. I was kinda curious about it, but I was, about to go into lecture, so
Mhm.
that would be one of those moments where you forget about it and you move on. I kinda, like, pinpoint that in my head as, "Okay, I was curious about this, and
Hmm.
I almost don't wanna waste all my curiosity just in medicine." Like, I want to save some of that curiosity for the other things in life, and so it's almost like I will have this curiosity reserve of energy where I will set aside time to be like, go through like the Wikipedia of claymation and look up TikToks of people who are making claymation and like how cute and funny that is. And is that towards medicine? No. Is it technically a waste of my time? No. Even if I could have been studying? No, it's not, because it's like I'm fueling my own curiosity tank. Like, it's so easy for that to feel like it's being depleted
Mhm.
in med school because I am curious about what I'm learning in med school. And I do really enjoy it. But it's almost like then when I see other things that I might be interested in, it's like I like whatever. I can't. I don't have time for it. Like I don't have brain power. I don't have the bandwidth to even
Mhm.
like do all of this stuff. So I like to protect my curiosity a little bit and save it for some of those like weird random things that I come across. And from there, like, you never know what kind of interests and hobbies you might get out of that.
Amazing. Do you have anything like, do you keep a curious moments list? The way that some people keep like a spirit list of like the positives of any words of affirmation or like a positive glimmer that happened in their day. But I just wonder because I love
Mm.
curious moments so much, but I'm like, should we have a list for a rainy day or for like a low curiosity day?
We should have a list. I don't have one. I have like this is gonna sound kind of silly, but like an Instagram Reels folder,
Well, yeah,
of
the same.
things that I see that I want to remember. Like if I'm literally taking a 5 minute break in between lecture and I'm scrolling on Instagram for like a little brain break,
Mhm.
and I see something that looks really interesting. I saw this girl who was recreated this very expensive TV console furniture that was from like Reformation Hardware or something like that.
Whoa.
Restoration Hardware. And she remade it using like little IKEA stands and it looked exactly the same, but for like 200 bucks. And I was like, "Oh, I love that," because I love like Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
I love finding interesting ways to use furniture. I'm just really into interior design. But again, it's like I don't have time for that. That's just like a little interest thing that I would never have paid attention to. But I went back, I pinned that little reel into my folder, which I just call interest bucket. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't have a better name for it. Maybe like curiosity something. But I just call it my interest bucket because I like to just think I like put things in there, and every once in a while I'll just like pick a random one out
Mm.
and just kind of explore that. And I looked at her videos, and from there I went on Facebook Marketplace. I started looking at different IKEA tables. From there, I started finding like vintage furniture places around me. All this stuff. I then texted my boyfriend and I was like, "Hey, can we go to this place called the Family Center Thrift or something like that?" Which,
Mhm.
according to Facebook Marketplace, had this great little table that I wanted. And it was like all of that came from this random reel and this pinch of curiosity that I wanted to sustain, but in the moment couldn't. And so created a very convenient and easy place for me to remember to go back to it when I needed the inspiration.
So practical and so efficient, and I definitely want everyone to know that I feel very strongly that you see the marathon for what it is. You see the marathon as a marathon. I think that
Yeah.
you doing practices like this are a very real people. Obviously, they put a new think piece out every day. The AMA is always talking about like anti burnout, and their article will just be like, go for a walk. But This is the real heart of fight against burnout, because it is a marathon, and the
Mhm.
way that you're building up thoughtful, deliberate banks and reserves and trying to protect some of your core identity, I absolutely think that that will serve you even better in the long run. And it does not detract, right? Like, the curiosity bucket certainly doesn't mean that somebody is taking medicine less seriously. They should not be spending that time studying. I know you spend 95% of your time studying, so that's really good. So a 5% curiosity moments and interest bucket sounds really good. And obviously, at different points in your medical career, it would be awesome to build that up. That's always going to wax and wane over the course of a long career in medicine. The last thing that I want to mention and put out there, because we may have some listeners who are like, didn't train when Instagram was around, right? And they're like,
Mhm.
that's crazy. They're like, Natasha, in between lectures, you looked at Instagram. Like, that's what's wrong with kids these days. It's the Instagram. It rotted their brains. I I wanted to just call this out because I want to proactively defend you and say, we had Instagram when I was an M1 13 years ago. And we were also on it, by the way, like during our study breaks.
Mhm.
What's just funny is that Instagram wasn't like as good of a platform. So instead of seeing like these really
Yeah.
intricate, gorgeous, like IKEA reels, I was just looking at like, a sepia filtered sandwich. And that's like it, like a weird, Instagram wasn't good back then, but it doesn't mean, yeah. And I'm sure that before Instagram existed, that people were spending their break like talking about basketball scores with like the guy next to them in the lecture hall. Like, these brain breaks. It's just funny because I think attendings and beyond, they find it easy to forget what it was like back then. Like, I'm sure that you also didn't just like sit there rigid, staring at the screen, even when it was like a bathroom break in between lectures.
Yeah. And part of the reason why I've created these guardrails is because people like you have spoken out about protecting your peace and protecting your personality and who you are as a person, because that can slowly get chipped away if you let it. And so you have to find things that you can do that remind you about who you were before medicine, or who you want to be, you know, tangential to medicine, but it's also separate from medicine. It's because people have spoken out and said, protect yourself, keep yourself at the forefront. It's okay to be a little selfish. Set like time aside for you, for your hobbies, your interests, anything for you. Create time for it, because that time will feel like it's not there unless you create it. Like, you
Hmm.
have to actively look out for yourself. If you want to create time, you can create time, but it won't just be there.
It won't
You
be
have to
handed to
carve it
you.
out.
Yes. And no one
Yeah.
else is going to give it to you.
Mm,
And you don't, by the way, contrapositive, you don't get a special award for not doing it. Sorry, but you don't. There isn't, I treated the whole marathon, I think just every day I woke up and it was a sprint till I fell asleep, and just like on repeat for 10 years. Caused
yeah.
some significant dysfunction, right? I'm going to cite one of my favorite quotes here that you just reminded me of, which is, to paraphrase, the world is going to try to tell you who you are. And if you don't know who you are,
Hmm.
you're going to believe them.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, Natasha. I don't think that you're going to believe them. I think you're going to be great. You have a better head on your shoulders than most of us did at this point.
Thanks to you guys. It's people being open and vulnerable that's helped all of us, like this generation, be like, okay, how can we, you know, do what they were not able to do because no one told them.
Yep, do
No
it
one looked
better.
out for them. Do it better and pass it down. That's what you guys are doing. That's what the HC is doing.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, Natasha. I think this is such a great reminder. I hope this conversation reminded everyone that we're better physicians when we preserve our own identities, our relationships, values, and really creativity outside of the profession.
Thank you so much for having me, Francis May. Can't wait to be back, maybe.
Abs- Absolutely. You're going to put me out of a job here because you have better and more wisdom to share. I come on here and I'm like, guys, don't you sometimes just want to lose it. Natasha's like, okay, this is why we listen to our gut. And I'm like, every day I get on here and I'm like, my reptilian brain is telling me some like weird stuff today. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't
Thank
know,
you for,
crash outs are worth it. I like a good crash out.
you have to integrate all of your experiences. That's what I'm learning.
Exactly.
It's okay. We got to integrate. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Surgeon Interrupted. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Frances May MD, and check out the Hippocratic Collective.com for more shows and content like this.